Dozens of major corporations, as a result of Trump's tax bill, paid nothing in federal taxes.
What you don't say is that everybody paid less in taxes than they did under Obama. Or
I'll respond to this when it comes up, because it's going to come up, because it says coming up.
I wanted to get into the top price break. Screw you! I wanted to get into the top socialist lies, top 5 myths that people. I guess these just continually. Let's just start with this: Bernie Sanders town hall at Fox News. It personified everything wrong with the left wing. Let's start with this.
I mean, the entire crowd was cheering for him. So if that's the personification of everything wrong with the left, we're doing pretty good.
I happen to believe, Joe, that we have an absurd tax system.
Yep.
And while millions of people today are paying actually more in taxes than they anticipated, Amazon, Netflix, and dozens of major corporations, as a result of Trump's tax bill, paid nothing in federal taxes. I think that's a disgrace.
What you don't say is that everybody paid less in taxes than they did under Obama, or they would under you piece of shit. By the way, did you notice he said dozens of corporations?
Dozens.
Just run a quick search and see how many corporations there are in the United States. Hint, it's a lot more than dozens.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of them that probably don't pay taxes. But things like Amazon, Netflix, Walmart, none of those companies pay taxes. And all those companies make billions upon billions of dollars. Sure, the American taxpayer got a small cut, but it's in no way comparable to the millions upon millions of dollars, or actually billions, since they're not paying anything in taxes, made by those American corporations. It's not even fucking close, okay? Even if those corporations only pay like 25% of their taxes, like something stupid low, 10%, it would be more money than any one of those Americans would have ever made in their entire lives. That's the point. So, and some Americans actually had their taxes go up because of other things in like California and such, right? Other state tax reasons. So, just all in all, shit point, moving on.
If we missed a couple of dozen, that's okay.
This is the dishonesty. They're paying more than they expected because they wanted an even bigger tax cut that you and the media deceived them into thinking they wouldn't even get. Even the New York Times did an expose on this. Many people who got a tax cut didn't actually believe that they got one at all. Most people saved money, paid less in taxes this year. The middle class benefited from the tax cut. Everyone did.
I mean, no. That's just untrue from, I mean, maybe some anecdotes from, stuff like that. But if you run a business, you got a tax cut. Like a small business, you got a tax cut. Stuff like that, right? Like David Pakman said he got a tax cut. But like a lot of individual people didn't because, like I said, some state tax things. Where was that graph from? See, okay, so everyone didn't get a tax cut. Got a tax cut. 64% of people got a tax cut. Then there's a breakdown. Households less than 30,000, only 30% of them got a tax cut. You would think that would be the biggest people getting a tax cut. 30 to 50,000, nearly 70%. Boom, and then get it how it goes higher and higher, and more tax cuts for higher and higher classes of people. Like that's one individual making $100,000, $75,000 to $100,000. That's pretty well off. That's like upper middle class for one single person making that much money. So the middle to bottom of the middle class to the poor, not really the poor, like 30K is like, it's pretty all right if you're living alone with no kids. They didn't get much of a tax cut. The middle class did a little bit, but it's not like all of them did.
who got a tax cut didn't actually believe that they got one at all. Most people saved money, paid less in taxes this year. The middle class benefited from the tax cut. Everyone did. But I bet you're paying more than you...
Wait a second. This graph is fucking stupid. 30% of people didn't think they get a tax cut. Guess what's missing from that back half of the graph? 30% of people. So this number is true for about 10%, right? Over here in the 50 to 75. In the 50 to 75, it's 10% is true, because if 30% didn't think they get a tax cut, and 30% of people from 30 to 50 didn't get a tax cut, right? Then there's like 6% difference. Not even on this, but yeah, there would be a 6% difference. Household incomes, like just look at the household incomes of $30,000. Got a tax cut, 30%. Think they got a tax cut, 30%. Those two numbers line up. Think they got a tax cut, 30%. Got a tax cut, like, right? Think they got a tax. Maybe those like, oh yeah, I guess those line up better than what I was saying. But still, they're like really weird because let's say you ask the Americans, I bet you they don't look at their taxes at fucking all. No one knows how to do their fucking taxes.
They believe that they got one at all. Most people saved money, paid less in taxes this year. The middle class benefited from the tax cut. Everyone did. But I bet you're paying...
Doesn't matter if everybody benefited. If I get $500 as a middle class person, so my taxes get reduced by 1%, let's say. 1% of my income. And I make $100,000. That's $100, or is it $1,000? Am I fucking stupid? $1,000. $1,000. So I made back $1,000. Now, if you're a millionaire and you got a 1% break, that's $10,000, which is 10% of my income.
More than you thought. What are you saying? You thought you were going to get a bigger price break. Screw you! This is how socialism works. It deceives people into thinking they're worse off than they are by lying to them and then using that misery to get elected, promising to solve everyone.
Except for, arguably, the American population is doing the worst of any developed nation. It's pretty much back at this point.
Problem with free money. And this was, we'll get to the top 5, I think the biggest myths, the most pervasive myths. All this was reiterated. There was an article this week announcing Means.tv. Did you see it? It's an online socialist media network who, without a hint of irony, it'll be a paid subscription service.
Stephen, that's a tax.
So I went to their site to see what they were about. And again, let me know which socialist candidate you want us to live stream next week, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern. Sanders, Harris, Klobuchar, Buttigieg, Warren. I went to their site, Means TV, to see what they were. No surprises. I felt like this segment was long overdue. Let's cycle through the top 5. All right, let's get to it.
Yeah.
Number 5 is that there is no class mobility. The cards are stacked against you. This comes directly from the new paid subscription.
I betcha. Oh, just this random website? Okay, so we're now off of Bernie Sanders and onto some random fucking website that nobody fucking knows about. Awesome. Really glad this is happening.
Subscription socialist network.
You only really have like so many options. You can go to the factory, you can go to the college, or you can go to the army.
What do I have to do so I can get into a position to where I can chase what I want to chase versus surviving?
What? Oh, I feel like I have no options. And you proceed to name all the options. 3 unbelievable options. By the way,
if that's all the options, wait a sec. No way. Factory, army, or college. And if those are the only options, then college just leads to factory.
Chase. What to do?
You can go to the college, or you can go to the army.
What do I have to do so I can get into a position to where I can chase what I want to chase versus surviving?
What? I feel like I have no options. And you proceed to name all the options. 3 unbelievable options. By the way, the offshoots from those 3 options are probably at least 3,000 options.
Oh, okay. So he's just expanding it. Okay. Well, guys, if you go and work at the factory, it will give you great artistic abilities. Guys, I know that you don't like working at factories, but if you just work there for 3 years, you'll get that office job you were looking for.
Like I could work at a factory and work your way up to vice president?
Oh, that fucking never happens. When's the last time somebody worked from worker to vice president? Unless, of course, it's a startup business, worker-owned co-op, which means there's not really a vice president. It's just like there's the group of people, right? Unless because they're all called vice presidents, but whatever. Oh yeah, like that's pretty much the 2 options. Is if it's like a newer company, startup company, so there's not a lot of employees there. But if you're trying to become the vice president of fucking Walmart, yeah, no, you're not gonna be a fucking floor manager becoming the vice president of Walmart anytime soon. That's all family now.
Didn't work your factory. This was in Detroit. This network where a UAW worker cost the company an average of over $130,000 a year.
Whoa!
I could go into the military. Well, you mean you could get tuition paid for? Work your way up to officer?
Tuition paid for. Yeah, but the military is like an like you don't want to. Some people are like morally don't want to join the military. So yes, it's an option, and usually for most countries, it's a decent option. You make a good amount of money from the military. But not everybody wants to do that, and Trump doesn't want certain people doing it, right? Transgenders. Remember when he banned those fucks? Yeah.
Not to mention serve your country? Yeah. Oh, I gotta go to
Some people would not like to serve their country because they don't think it's a nice place to live right now because it doesn't have health care, has a shitty tax system, has a fuck ton of poor people, doesn't give a fuck about anybody else in the world, wants to build a wall against the border of a suffering country.
College and choose any of the hundreds of degrees available there?
Except for they all cost money, and for the most part, you won't have enough money to do that, so you'll have to go into the factory to afford your college degree, but once you're working in the factory, you really can't afford to, like, go to college because, well, you got no money to spare because, you know, it's minimum wage sucks, nutsack, blah, 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 you know? Okay.
This is like, I only got 3 hours.
It's like Steven Crowder thinks it's fucking... It's literally free, but it's not. College costs money, okay? And if you live in a shit neighborhood, you're not going to college. Factory work doesn't pay extremely well, so odds are you're not going to be able to afford college to go to the other things. Sure, in the video they mentioned college as like an option. It's probably not that great of an option, okay? Go think it's some random fucking website and some random fucking channel and not... the running president, Bernie Sanders, which you've played one fucking clip of that you thought you got him on, but you're just fucking wrong because if Amazon doesn't pay anything in taxes, the amount of money they're saving is more than like every single person that got a tax break from Trump.
No, I can't do anything.
Why are you complaining?
Sounds horrible.
Because the options I got are only infinity. I don't.
Oh. He's now extrapolated to infinity as if every American has access to every single job market. Yeah, that's totally possible. I can walk right down the street and become the CEO of my company, a new company, okay? And it will be prosperous and I'll make billions. It's true. I can do it. Infinity, boys. Take one fucking business class and run the whole world. Right? Everyone's doing that, right? Just throw some stocks, you know? Make billions off the stock market, you know? Right? That's how America works.
There are 3 options to on-ramps, basically. There are 3 on-ramps to any option you want for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Except for factory work, kind of keeps you in a hole for your entire life, which is the problem. The military is well paid, but some people think it's immoral to join that, and people want to kind of get rid of the military-industrial complex, and you have the potential to die. if you are if you are ever sent overseas, which is somewhat rare, but I think it's somewhat rare. Is it like 20% or is it the opposite? I think it's like 20% getting sent overseas, but everyone else does like office work and stuff. Yeah. So yes, the military is a decent option, but some people don't want to do that, right? You gotta have options, okay? Artists don't want to join the military. People who are good in science don't want to join the military, right? He's completely ignored any job in science, any job in like factory work doesn't include machining and stuff like that. So any kind of higher tech job, completely fucking gone. But he's ignoring it because he says, oh, the option's in college. Well, you have to get fucking money for college. And your parents don't have it because you're fucking poor. And you don't have it because you're fucking poor because your parents are poor. So now you're fucked. So now you got to work at the factory. You hate your fucking job. But the factory doesn't pay you enough to get anywhere. So now you can't afford healthcare. You can't afford college. And now you're stuck. And now you're sitting here in the poor. And now you can't move up the ladder. So in other words, the point of the video is correct.
Okay. This idea that there is no social mobility in the United States.
Okay. If you're gonna fucking hyper focus on the word no, like nada, then you're fucking stupid, okay? I'm sorry to break it to you, buddy. But of course there's not no movement, but it's very fucking minute. Maybe like one person in the entirety of fucking a shitty neighborhood makes it decent, okay? And fucking even rarer is somebody from a shitty fucking neighborhood becoming the CEO of a very, very, very profitable company. Fucking rarely, ever, like that never fucking happens. What happens a lot is that people who are somewhat rich become uber rich, and some people who are uber rich become somewhat rich, and they flip between the 1% all the time, the top and bottom of 1%. Maybe some people fall out of the 1%, maybe they don't. Usually people probably fall out of the 1% when their fucking family dies off.
States. The cars are stacked.
Or in the case for, holy fuck, who the fuck invented Windows? That guy, he won't give any of his money to his kids, but he's paying for their college and stuff like that. So they're already at a higher point of privilege.
Act against you. Over the course of their lives, 56% of Americans will find themselves in the top 10%. 73% will spend it. Over the course of their lives, 56% of Americans.
For 1 year. 1 fucking year. Oh my god. Imagine that. Imagine working till you're 44 and for 1 year you're in the top 10 of the population. That's fucking, oh my, American dream right there. Am I right, guys? Holy fuck. Now, is this the top percentage of American adults who reached various income distribution levels over a 44-year period? Okay, but is this the top 1% of the world or the top 1% of the United States? See, 0.6%, let's say this is the American population. 0.6% of people have been in the top 1% for 10 consecutive years. If this is the world, this is a fucking disgusting statistic, okay? If this is the world, 0.6% are in the top 1% of the world. Like 90% of America's that. So this, I don't think this could be. Apparently, 90% of America's that. So I don't think this could be the world. So I'm going to assume that this is the United States based on the United States population, even though it doesn't fucking tell us that, and it's supposed to. So failure of a graph here, telling where this information came from. But let's assume that it's from the American population. So 73% of adults of 44 years of age will be in the top 20% for more than 1 year. What does that fucking mean? Does that mean that they've... So, okay, where does that lead? So if they've only more than 1 year, well, so that means that they maybe got a bonus that 1 year, putting them in that higher bracket, and now they're poor again. This doesn't explain... This doesn't tell us how they've moved up the ladder. 56% were in the top 10% for more than 1 year. So if they got a bonus 1 year, now they're on that graph. And I'm pretty sure getting a bonus for 1 year, moving you up into the higher bracket of into the 10%, doesn't fix your life. You're not affording college all of a sudden. You're not going for... I mean, you're not really affording your medical bills all of a sudden, stuff like that, you know? You don't get cured of cancer because you got one bonus one time.
Americans will find themselves in the top 10%. 73% will spend at least more than a year than the top 20%. Americans will find themselves in the top 10%. 73% will spend at least more than a year than the top 20%. Okay? So this
a year is fucking nothing in this terms of your lifetime, and that was a span of 40 years. So imagine working for 44 years. Let's say is that like working, or is that people of 40 over 40 for a year period? Okay, so this to me sounds like the graph is people worked for 44 years and they made it in the, like, imagine that. Literally, you worked for 44 years and you made it in the top 20% for one fucking year. Yeah, that's fucking helping you butt all.
73% will spend at least more than a year than the top 20%. Okay? So this idea that there's a static 99 and top 1% ruling class, it's just not true.
Except for your own graph shows you that. Because 0.6% stay in the top 1% for more than 10 years. So there's a 0.6% that kind of, and then they always, like, the top, like the uber rich constantly stay, like the Koch brothers aren't falling out of there anytime soon. Walmart boy isn't falling out of there soon. Jeff Bezos is not falling out of there anytime soon. Like, the uber rich don't become unrich instantaneously. Like, they're not falling fucking below 20%.
True. Particularly in the United States. And this brings me to myth number 4, that capitalism only benefits the wealthy.
Yeah, your current system of capitalism definitely does.
We hear this all the time, that America sure is a rich country, but for most people it's terrible.
My mom actually told me, like, moving.
Okay, so here's an anecdote. So this guy's gonna rip into the anecdote. Again, this is just means. What the fuck is the means channel? How many fucking subscribers does this fucking channel have? Nope. Is that the channel? Is the means? Means. Where's that? Will we link the video? Nope. Okay, what am I at? 420? So he goes into Bernie Sanders, and then he never talks about...
Tax cut didn't actually thought. What's it? To see to solve every myth. Do you see it's an online socialist media network? This was reiterated.
Means TV. Okay, Means TV. Okay. All right. And I love that he brings up the... Ironically, they have a subscription service. Yeah, it turns out people who live in a capitalist system have to partake in said system to survive. 100,000 subscribers. Wow, we switched from Bernie Sanders to some channel with 100,000 subscribers.
Socialism is a real threat to the status quo.
Oh, I thought I knew what that was. Wow, 100,000 subscribers and like 10 videos. Way to punch up there, Crowder. You bit on Bernie Sanders a little bit, and you're like, gotta fucking tear down this Means TV fucking
to America just like made everything worse.
From where?
Moving to America.
For most people, it's terrible.
My mom actually told me, like, moving to America just like made everything worse.
From where?
Stephen, you can't act. You can't You can't ask that question, because if it gets answered, you're conceding that country's better. Oh, but I guess he could argue that it's not, but he probably is wrong. But anyways,
I feel like money is always the problem and the solution at the same time.
Are you high right now?
Seem to be just
completely ignoring his very good point, which was, it's all about money. It's a problem and a is he blessing? Is he a problem and a blessing?
It's like made everything
it's a solution
worse.
and the problem. That's what he said.
From
in
where?
America, I feel like money is always the problem and the solution at the same time.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I feel like in the States, money is always the problem, but it's also the solution, which is fucking super true. Money is everything, right? Isn't that yeah? I mean, money is speech now, so.
Are you high right now?
Seem to be just doing worse and worse, and nobody really seems to be able to do anything about it.
Better and better.
You know,
I love the introduction. Okay, so this is all an anecdote. So, like, you don't really have to take this seriously, which is fine. But I like that he just interjects with his own fucking, you know, it's better and better.
why do our parents
Why should we believe you? For the same reasons, why should we believe these
work
fucks?
all the time, and then it's still hard for us?
You spend too much.
Oh, assuming that they spend too much. You literally know nothing about them. Here's the fucking meme. Oh, black people? Well, they're just stupid. That's why they're poor. You guys are poor? Well, you clearly just spend too much. Yeah, okay.
System in place that keeps us there.
And to find out about that system, like, it's only $9.99 a month. I buy your cars.
I'll buy your car.
They're not going to stay poor for long.
Oh, no. People have to partake in the capitalist system without agreeing to it? That means they're all hypocrites. I'm pretty sure those people, if they didn't have to take money, wouldn't. But YouTube is fucked for ad revenue. I mean, you would even say that that's taking part in capitalism by collecting ad revenue. So, like, anything they do to try to make money to survive, like, their entire point of the fucking video is to make money to survive. Anything they do is partaking in capitalism, so therefore their entire point is fucked. Like, holy nutsack.
Honestly, here's the thing. No system is perfect. But name me any system throughout the history of mankind that has pulled more people.
Here we go again. Pulled more people out of poverty. Yeah, you're right. Not the United States. The system of capitalism has pulled more people out of poverty than any other system. But capitalism isn't just like a one-way street. There's a fucking like there's a scale, okay, of how much capitalism you can have in your economy. You can go full anarcho-capitalist, where everything and anything is paid for. Police force, firefighter, everything is paid for. You have to buy it through a free market system. Okay? Then there's a SOCDEM system, social democratic system, where there is a free market system, but it is heavily regulated and heavily regulated. I don't know what the fuck the other words are because I'm an idiot apparently. But it's heavily regulated, but it still exists as a free market system, you know? So you got your police force, like that, like things that need to be taxpayer funded will be taxpayer funded. So you got your healthcare, your police force, your firefighters, your any other public service, your transportation services, all those things that are deemed in need of public funding will be publicly funded. Okay, and then you got socialism, which is post-capitalist, where you take apart the capitalist system and in place a socialist system. All right, now we got the fucking great. Like, he literally talks as if capitalism is one system, and like it's like as if other countries don't partake in capitalism, and only the United States is. And even then, like, this is literally a point Ben Shapiro would take up, that Norway isn't a socialist country. It's a mixed market system, heavily burdened by restrictions. The United States is not really capitalist. It's really heavily burdened by restrictions and social programs. It's like, yeah, because if they weren't there, you'd get fucked. Like, duh. Fucking Jesus. If you deregulate the fuck out of a capitalist system, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer because there's nobody moderating how the rich do their business. So the rich will dump all their shit downriver. Because if you have a company on a mountain or just upriver, that company's not going to give a shit about dumping crap into the water because it won't affect them. It'll affect the people down the line. And the only regulation that they'll go is if that somehow starts affecting their business profit-wise. Right? Okay? So they're totally willing to pollute the fuck out of the planet as long as it increases profits. Because that's how it works. That's how every fucking company, like, right? That's why we have regulations on where you have to dump your trash, because companies, instead of taking it and recycling it properly, will just take their fucking trucks and dump it into the ocean. Like, that just happens. You can't debate that. We have regulations for a fucking reason. And, like, you won't even go, I know that you, Stephen, will not go against regulations. You're like, oh, well, they're mandatory, and the police force comes with government. Police work isn't socialism. It's not a social program. It's just mandatory for government. Yeah. Because we've set it up to be so, like, we've deemed it necessary. And now the debate is that, like, because let's say we were in a system. Let's go way the fuck back where we didn't have publicly funded police force. You could have argued that we don't need a publicly funded police force. People can just buy their protection. It's better that way. They have choice. Like, just change the current debate about publicly funding healthcare and just switch it to the police force. You pay for your own police guy. You pay for your own protection. The choice, guys. You gotta have the choice of your protection. Like, fucking Jesus Christ. You're right. Capitalism brings a lot more people out of poverty, and capitalism is beneficial to countries that have a shitty economy, because it's a very good way to boost your country's economy and get them going. Once you've established a strong economy, you can pull back and go more social to increase the what the fuck's it called again? Holy shit. Not the cost of living. Quality of life. Jesus Christ. Once you've hit a certain peak point of your economy, and you don't really need to make more money because there's no one else for you to compete with, then you can pull back and go more social to increase the quality of life of your citizens. Okay? So, here's the extremes. Slave labor will build you a castle far faster than volunteer work. Yeah? That's like, you have to agree to that. That's like true, because that's how the United States was built, was slave labor. But once you're done building the castle, you can, even though slavery is immoral, you can get off of that system, which is basically what we've done. We've deemed that slavery at this point is immoral, so we've gotten off of it. We've moved more social, so that we increase the quality of life of those people who were once slaves. So the same thing with working in factories and sweatshops. So the next step of, it's like, so slavery's gone and is legal across the globe. So now the second step is like sweatshops and shitty working environments, right? Like, if you deregulate a company, it will make more money and boost your economy a lot, but your workers and citizens will probably have a shittier quality of life. So to cut back on economic growth, you'll take a cut in your GDP, but your quality of life will go up. That's why nobody fucking measures their country's well-being with GDP. It's HDI now.
People out of poverty than the free enterprise in a capitalist system.
Venezuela, they killed them
There you
all.
go. You know what? Here, let's do a mental exercise. Everyone watching.
Oh, they've already brought back Venezuela, as if there was no outside factors to Venezuela.
Okay.
Pick a system, any system right now. Think of it in your head, okay? No! That's the answer.
Well, there's a mixed market system. There's a full anarcho-capitalist system. Right? You're just saying capitalism as if it's a static thing. This is capitalism. Objectively, this is capitalism. As if anarcho-capitalism doesn't exist. As if a mixed market system doesn't exist. As if it's just like, what is it? What is it? What is the capitalism? Do you want anarcho-capitalism? Because you're talking as if you want anarcho-capitalism, but when you're pressed on the questions of, do you want a police force? Do you want firefighters? You just say, oh, well, that's not socialism. That's just inherent to government. Like, fuck. You want to put this, like, capitalism in a box just so that it can't be, like, pulled apart at any point. But we all know that every country runs off a mixed market system with heavy regulations so that businesses don't fuck the workers. But you seem to want to go towards anarcho-capitalism, but you're aware that anarcho-capitalism is bad, but you just don't care because it's part of your rhetoric. You just want to stay as far away from socialism as possible.
Let's just go under Trump, because they try to amplify this with Donald Trump. Look, people are worse off ever. Yeah. We have the lowest unemployment.
All right, let me be back. I gotta get more coffee. Let me get the last little bit of coffee. back into this fucking Kincher. Let's get into him just denying known facts about the world. Genie Wijnaldum scored for Liverpool. Awesome.
Unemployment rate in 50 years. Record number.
U.S. job openings hit record of, yeah. All right. So this is true. Unemployment is at an all-time low. You know when else it was an all-time low? Just before the crash in 2008. Or 2000, yeah. Or the original depression. Fuck, I forget what crash it was. But just before the crash, unemployment was at like 3%. And then it fucking shot up 10. And now it's on the decline again. And it's been on the decline for a long time. So it's not just Donald Trump that's doing this. It was on the decline during the Obama era and has now moved into the Trump era. That's how economics work. And not just the United States is moving in decline. I didn't really know this. I forget who the fuck brought it up. I think Kyle Clancy did. Anyways. The United States, or was it David Pakman? Might have been David Pakman. Regardless, not just the United States has been having unemployment so low. All these socialist countries, Denmark, the Scandinavian countries, I think the UK are all at low unemployment rates of like 3 to 4%.
Numbers of workers returning to the workforce, highest job labor force participation rate. And by the way, even with all of that, we actually have both the lowest layoff rate and the highest amount of unfulfilled, meaning available jobs, since the Department of Labor began recording the statistics ever.
Yes, and only I love this. I love when he compares to the United States, where it has a crash, where they've had multiple market crashes. He's not comparing to the rest of the world, right? If the capitalist system of America is so good, then that means their unemployment rates and return of job rate and firing rate or whatever, unemployment rates should be lower than the rest of the countries in the rest of the world. But that's just not true. All countries, currently, all modern countries, all Western countries, whatever, all have a low unemployment rate. Just maybe slightly above or even below the United States. So this correlation of, our unemployment is low, so therefore our capitalism is good, is just not true, because other countries are benefiting or doing just as well as you are in terms of unemployment rate. Like you were just citing it as a reason that capitalism is so fucking good, even though these other countries who are less capitalistic than you, more mixed market, more towards socialism than you are, have equal or better unemployment rates.
It's time to toss your hemp noose over the basement pipe, because I only got 3 options: college, military, or being an entrepreneur. It's like
except for the fact that wasn't an option.
I could go to school, study, and
except for the school one. Arguably that was a dumb point to bring up, because arguably you don't have that good of access to school because of the fucking immense debt you'll take on. But I guess that's the reason it's accessible, is because you can take on that debt. Problem is you're paying that off for the rest of your life, so you're not really moving up the economic ladder because you have a fuck ton of debt to pay off.
maybe like the STEM field, or get on Shark Tank. What the f? I'm gonna...
Shark Tank. How many people on Shark Tank? Wow. Wow. Holy fucking nutsack. This one doesn't really matter. You're the okay. Oh, and a lot of those deals is like, give us 50% of your fucking profits for like your entire existence. Okay, this company didn't get a deal. Okay. We tracked the deals and gathered the... Okay, so those are countries. Countries. So they went on the Shark Tank, got a fuck ton of money, and then kind of dropped down. On that all blue, so all of these two? I don't know. So companies that have gone up. I don't know what this actually graph is about, to be honest. Doesn't really tell me how many of them. I don't know. Oh, these are like, oh, this is like their profits off of their, I don't know. I don't care. Hell, I know Shark Tank's probably not a great way to move up the economic ladder.
We need a new system.
Right?
Hit the notification bell.
Yeah, dog. Everybody who wants to start up a business goes on fucking Shark Tank. You're right. Fuck. Shit, capitalism is perfect, guys. We could just go on Shark Tank.
By the way, join up at ladosclatter.com/mugclub. It's more necessary than ever. Half Asian lawyer Bill Richmond can tell you. And of course, subscribe on iTunes and hit the notification bell. I already said that, and rate us on iTunes. It doesn't really matter.
Hit the bell.
Here's one of the biggest ones. You've heard this a lot, right? The idea that there's no wage growth. One of the most common myths is that wage.
That's a true fact. Wage stagnant. Oh, I betcha. He's just gonna cite that like people have made more money since X. Yeah, you're right. They have made more money, but it hasn't been in correlation with our inflation.
Wages have remained the same. If you factor in inflation and you look at U.S. where people are working more, but they're not getting paid any more money. Here you go. You hear it all the time.
And about half of Americans don't own a stock, a mutual fund, or any it means nothing to them. So they'd rather get a wage increase.
Key thing that we've been looking at for quite a while.
It means nothing to them. So they'd rather get a wage increase.
Key thing that we've been looking at for quite a while that doesn't seem to be moving too much.
So they'd rather get a wage increase.
Key thing that we've been looking at for quite a while that doesn't seem to be moving
but they can't
too much is
like, what an idiot. Okay, you invest in the stock and then it drops off because you have no idea how to invest in the stock market.
Wages.
Yeah.
2%.
Like, are all stocks profitable? No.
The trouble with 2% is 2% kind of just sucks. Wages growing at 2% is not enough to make.
It's a 2% wage increase over 30 years.
Anyone feel the job market boom?
First off, I don't want to go ad hominem, but is her chin penciled on?
Feel the job market boom.
First off, I don't want to.
Wages growing at 2% is not enough to make anyone feel the job market.
Meisterburger has two very defined lines. Okay, this is just as problematic, to use their word, as the wage gap, the idea of 77 cents in the dollar. That just compares women make X, men make Y. One problem with computing wage growth, the way that the Bureau of Labor, the statistics do, is they the wage very defined, but it's
2% is not enough to make anyone feel the job market boom.
First off, I don't want to go ad hominem, but is her chin penciled on? It's like the Meisterburger has two very defined lines. Okay, this is just as problematic, to use their word, as the wage gap, the idea of 77 cents in the dollar. That just compares women make X, men make Y. One problem with computing wage growth, the way that the Bureau of Labor, the statistics do, is they do average hourly earnings. It's going to get a little nerdy. Let me try and go through this really quickly. That doesn't take into account lifetime wage growth. I highly recommend you check out the sources in the overlay that we bring up here right now. Let me distill it for you. When you take into account individual wage growth as calculated by the census, their current population.
Holy fuck, what the hell is this? Chart 4, BSL, CP average, hourly earnings, and CP average. What the fuck is CP? CPS average wage. BLS ASH, CPS AAG. What do these mean? Characters per second, cycles per second, and current population survey, U.S. Census. Okay. Goddamn. So, current population, average wage, 5%. Okay. AHE meaning. Academic healthcare, New York. Okay, where's the American Census? Okay. Application, host environment, action, humanitarian, evangelic. I don't know. Home educator, associate. That's a Spanish. Associate for human emergency. Armament handling equipment. Alberta Hospital, Edmonton. Ambassador for higher education. Association for Heterodox Economics, is that it? Advanced Hawkeye. Associate Home Economics. Maybe.
Population survey. Okay, those models. It's actually closer to 5%. Average
Which doesn't suck.
No. Average individual wage growth is individual wage. Compares women make X, men make Y. One problem with computing wage growth, the way that the Bureau of Labor, the statistics do, is they do average hourly earnings. It's going to get a little nerdy. Let me try and go through this really quickly. That doesn't take into account lifetime wage growth. I highly recommend you check out the sources in the overlay that we bring up here right now. Let me distill it for you.
Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas. Oh, God. 12-month meaning percent growth. 4-quarter moving average. So what does this side mean? Is that percentage? Yeah. Yeah. This is the years. So who knows what these gray bars mean? BLS and CP. Average hourly earnings and CPS average individual hourly wage. Okay. So hourly wage of people who are working a job for their entire lives, is that the graph? Because yeah, your wage would go up as you live, but the problem is that wages themselves haven't.
When you take into account individual wage growth is calculated by the census.
Yeah, individual wage growth. So like one person getting a fat bonus would change
their current population survey. Okay, those models. It's actually closer to 5%. Average
which doesn't suck.
Okay. I mean, I'm not exactly an economist or anything, and I'm not sure what most of that graph means. But it sounds like you're just taking the average hourly wage of somebody who's working a job for their entire lives. And obviously they're going to get a raise with their job. So if that's 5%, you have to add that, like, you have to take into consideration that the wages themselves, like minimum wage basically, hasn't moved up with the economy. That's the point. So I don't know.
Average individual wage growth is always higher than the simple average hourly earnings growth. And there are a few reasons for this. And I want you to do your own mental exercise because anecdotal obviously doesn't necessarily prove a point. But the
Is he going to go into an anecdote?
Empirical data, I believe, will match up with your anecdotal experience. So anyone out there right now who's done a job or been in a career in the same field of work for more than 10 years watching right now, okay? I'd like you to comment below.
Oh, see? It is that. So the graph was just showing that people who work in a job for 10 years get a raise in their wages by 5%. I'm pretty sure is what it was. Like, duh. But also, people today don't hold the same job for 10 plus years. They get fired, they have a change of career and stuff like that. So their wages are always going back down and whatnot. Okay.
If you have been doing the same job or working with the same company, same field of work for 10 years, I want you to do some math. Have you only seen a 2% wage growth?
Yeah, probably not if you worked for one company for 10 plus years. Problem is, most people don't work for one company for 10 plus years. So they're always moving back to the base wage, like your base income, right? And your base income is, like when you're starting your job, is lower than it should be based on how the economy has grown in recent years.
I would
like the minimum wage, right?
challenge anyone out there. Lower earners at the beginning of their life, by the way, they tend to have the most wage growth. As people get older, they get wealthier, the percentage of wage growth is less. So if you're seeing that sort of pay bump bottom out a little bit, that now it maybe used to be 10%, 12%, now it's 2%, that means you're probably being paid pretty well if it's over a lifetime.
Let's just go by your wage increase by percentages. You work for 2 years, you get 10% increases. So you went from $7 an hour to $10 an hour. And then it's like 0.3%. And then they brought out like, hey, your average, look, you averaged a 5% increase in your wages from like $7 an hour to...
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, on top...
hold on. If you averaged a 5% increase of your wages over a 10-year period. Oh my god, this graph is so... okay. Yeah, if you averaged a 5% increase over 10 years of your... So let's say you made, in the first year, $10 an hour. 5% of that is 50 cents. Yeah, sure, buddy. Why is that delayed? Anyways. What do you mean link requests? Well, sure, fuck it, send it in. I'll vet it. So you made 50 cents in the first year. Let's say you make that, so 10-year period of $10 an hour would be, let's go 50% increase. So you would work for 10 years and get your wage increased to $15 an hour. Oh, I've seen this video. Holy fuck, if only the thing would open, for fuck's sakes. Jesus Christ. There we go, got it. Why do you want me to see this? I've already seen this. What are you requesting this for? Huh? Huh, goon? Also, I gotta go to my dashboard. This fucking... Oi, Smurf, where the fuck you at? Why do you want me to see this? Because I've already seen it. Sorry, hold on. I can't really see your chat because I'm trying to fix something. That should be better. There's like a delay in the chat thing. I don't know. Oh, well, I've seen this. I did a... Was it in high school? I think it was in high school. I did a... I'll watch it again, but I did a sociology project on it because it's a pretty cool video.
There's a man in the woods. What a spectacle. Before the story started, this school was still respectable. My students used to skip down the hill to the honeysuckle, pluck a couple, and collect their nectar till they picked their fill. Except one obnoxious kid, Sid, who just watched them eat the flowers while he seethed and scowled because he couldn't bear to share his sweet treats throughout our recess hour. I remember Sid saying, "There's a man in the woods." That's how the rumors began. Of course, Sid had spotted him first. The poor kids. He got him immersed in a spiel about a serial killer whose gun barrel glint hints at peril, a visit to the nurse, or worse, a hearse waiting just beyond the dale. The children saw him everywhere. Look, over there. That man had Batman ears. We swear. And crazy yellow eyes. We saw something rusty. His shotgun? It must be. I saw a lady's severed thigh. Trust me, every word I heard was absurd. Yet each day, Sid would stray down way past the playground. Who else was brave enough to save us from the killer's next plot? The rest of the lot would stop back at the blacktop, sure that any closer they were bound to be found deep in the woods, left to rot. I pleaded for the kids to think and learned to be mature, but after a few more rumors doomed my attempts to prove the school was secure, their fear was undeterred, and when the buses drove them all home, the parents finally heard. Everything just blew up. I received a wall of emails and calls full of shrieks, wails, and all from terrified families who'd heard word of the murder and didn't like my lack of action at all. What was I supposed to do? Comb the whole forest? Yeah, right. Would you? That means I didn't care? That's not fair. The stories that worried you weren't true. Of course I would feel regret had there been a real threat and I ignored it. And some poor kid got kidnapped while the kids were napping. But you couldn't admit that your good little kid would formulate a fib so he ignored what I said. Your little angels could never cook up such incredible creations. An overactive imagination maybe, but my kid could never lie. How dare I? Accuse a child of being dishonest? Just monstrous. The parents were displeased, and when the PTA took action, they dismissed me from the classroom. Like they knew what was best for their kids. Do you know how difficult it is to get a job when a bitter mom slatters your rep with child neglect from the outset? Now who's in control of your classes? Single file lines? Single file lines. Little file swine, a killer by the pines. Really? Are you blind? Will you find your spines? Sid, a child decides to fill our minds with lies, and the next thing you see is people treating me like I committed crimes. I was in my prime. Those kids were lucky to have me. Do you see what you did? But I can play along. I can be good. Do you hear that, Sid?
There's a man in the woods.
There's a man in the woods.
Pretty good video. I forget what I did my, I forget the fuck the point of my thing was. I did a sociology project on it. I think I had to do, I totally forget. I mean, probably something to do with the guy turning crazy, right? But, fuck. Damn, I wish I would remember what I did. It's probably shitty anyway, so fuck it. Thanks for the video, buddy. It's a pretty good video. What was the other one? Ooh, I forget. I remember there was like a project I had to do. It was like that video and like 3 other ones. Anyways, I'm gonna get back to this. Thank you for taking my fucking stress away from Steven Crowder right now. Holy fuck, this guy makes me want to kill myself. But I'm gonna go back and do it. What? Oh. That was weird. I took off.
Top of that, wage growth just hit a 10-year high, despite all the money.
A 10-year high wage growth for American workers likely to keep accelerating. Yeah, a 10-year high. That doesn't mean fuck all, buddy, if the growth has been shit.
Models predicting the exact opposite,
like if the wage growth was 0.0% for the past 10 years, and then it went to 0.2%. Whoa, record high wage growth. Yeah, garbage to garbage.
It seems like it's likely to keep accelerating. All right, listen, frankly, much wage growth.
US.
You're going to be so tired of all the growth
Not
with
US.
your wages. You won't have room. Your wages will have stretch marks, okay? Here's a second lie. It's really stupid, but
on the second lie?
I'm going to point out why I think you'll realize it's stupid on its face, but you often don't think of it this way. That wealth inequality is a huge problem.
Oh, we're back on Bernie, though. Thank fuck. We're not looking at some ridiculous random channel that has 100,000 subscribers. They made one video. Actually, they got a bunch of videos about it, maybe. But anyways, wealth inequality. So let's dive into what wealth inequality is. Because wealth inequality, to me and to Bernie Sanders, is that the top 1% of 1% pay almost nothing in taxes, which was true by his earlier point, which is that Amazon doesn't pay taxes, Walmart doesn't pay taxes, Netflix doesn't pay taxes, and some other company I don't remember doesn't pay taxes. So right now, because of Trump, the uber 1% are not paying anything in taxes based on their business. They also don't pay taxes because of the gutting, or maybe they still do. I'm not sure if it has been gutted or not. The gutting of the the estate tax has been pretty much removed. So if they just hold money, they don't pay taxes on it. And the capital gains tax, I think, has either been removed or is planning on being removed. And that would just make it so that you could make, or it doesn't even exist. That would make it so that you could make as much money as you want tax-free off of stocks and bonds, just because it boosts the economy.
We want to deal with the grotesque level.
Oh, and then the other point about the wealth inequality is that there are in the States there's quite literally a living poor, where you make too much money to be a part of Medicaid, but you make too little to actually afford the medical costs. So, yeah, wealth inequality is a real thing. And then there's also the education, where schools in the United States are funded with property taxes. So if you live in a shitty neighborhood, you'll have a shittily funded school. So therefore, you have a lower quality of education, increasing the wealth gap.
level of income and wealth inequality in America. Very few people think it is acceptable or moral that the top 0.1% owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%.
Here's what I call a stupid exercise. If I doubled every single person right now, watching, listening, doubled all of our incomes tomorrow, every single one, wealth inequality would increase. Would you be pissed? Would you prefer to live in a place like Cuba or Venezuela where people make whopping $30 a month?
How is that a good point? That makes no fucking sense. What? Hold on, I gotta digest what that point was.
One, wealth inequality now watching size. If I doubled every single person right now, watching, listening, doubled all of our incomes tomorrow, every single one, wealth inequality would increase. Would you be pissed?
That would be like Bernie Sanders' point. Well, you're just trying to give people money, just randomly double their stuff. Whereas Bernie Sanders wants to take taxes, more taxes from the uber wealthy rich and distribute it into social programs for the poor and the less fortunate, so that they have a better chance at climbing in society. So if you could somehow do that, Crowder, Bernie would agree with you, but you literally can't do that, and Bernie Sanders is doing his best to try to... What? So, no, he wouldn't be pissed. He would want, like... What?
Would you prefer to live in a place like Cuba or Venezuela where people make whopping $30 a month in Cuba? The problem isn't poverty. The problem...
That's not... He didn't say it's poverty. He said it's wealth inequality. Fuck. When did he bring up poverty? He was talking about wealth inequality, where there's a 0.1% of people that own more than 50% of the wealth in the world, or in at least the United States. That doesn't mean that, like, what? He's not talking about poor. He's talking about the wealth inequality. Like, do you not think it's immoral for a group of very, like, 100 people, I forget what the 0.1% of 1% actually is as a number of people, but, like, a handful of people own more wealth than half of the country.
The problem is wealth inequality, and I know that there are some nations... What? Would you prefer to live in a place like Cuba or Venezuela where people make whopping $30 a month in Cuba? The problem isn't poverty. The problem is wealth inequality. And I know that there are some nations in between. I'm not saying your only choice is the United States.
Did Bernie Sanders not just say that?
To deal with the grotesque level of income and wealth inequality in America, very few people think it is acceptable or moral that the top 0.1% owns almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%.
Here's what I call a stupid exercise. Listen. Wealth inequality. And I know that there are $30 a month.
I'm really confused. Bernie Sanders says the problem is wealth inequality.
The problem isn't poverty. The problem is wealth inequality. And I know that there are some nations in between. I'm not saying your only choice is the United States or Cuba. Generally speaking, socialism simply socializes mediocrity, poverty. Matter of fact, every study that we have available shows there's no correlation between wealth inequality and the poverty rate.
Gini coefficient. Let me just Google what that is for a second. A statistical measurement of degree of variation or inequality represented in a set of values used especially in analyzing income inequality. Oh, isn't this thing been largely debunked? No, maybe is it? The coefficient is between 0, where everyone earns the same, and 1, where the one person earns all the money. Okay. Okay. So we got the Gini coefficient. You got official poverty measure. Mayor's surveillance supplement measure. Mayor's surveillance consumption measure. Index equal 100. So I have no idea what the fuck this side means. Index 1980 equals 100. Of what? Okay, so Gini coefficient, which is the something measure of poverty, and then this goes over it, which I need to know what this left side means. What could that possibly mean? What? Gini coefficient, official poverty measure, Meyer surveillance supplement measure, Meyer, like what the fuck? Is that 100%? No.
Usually, as wealth inequality becomes big, as that gap becomes bigger, conditions of poor families have actually improved. And here's
yeah,
that makes no fucking sense.
You know, it's not so much a lie that they push. Let me set this up with a fact. Socialism has millions of poor families have usually, as wealth shows, there's no correlation between wealth inequality and the poverty rate. Usually, as
he's not even like he's not like talk like Bernie Sanders like wealth inequality, and then he's like, well, poverty rate, and then this, and as the wealth inequality increases, the quality of life of poor people increases.
As wealth inequality becomes big, as that gap becomes bigger, conditions of poor families have actually improved. And here's
how does that make any sense? So the rich get richer, and the poor get poorer, and yet their quality of life increases. I think the actual correlation is that as society gets better, generally you live a better life, but you could live a better one if there wasn't this massive gap, right? Like that. Does that make sense? So why would poor people be living better than they did before? And the gap, so the gap is increasing, which is true, but poor people are doing better. Well, it's because of our access to things, technology, healthcare. There's no he's like off on some weird tangent that I have no idea how to tackle right now because it doesn't connect to wealth inequality.
Yeah. You know, it's not so much a lie that they push. Let me set this up with a fact. Socialism has never actually worked.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm assuming he's going to go with pure socialism. The problem is that when he says socialism has never worked, he kind of just ignores social programs. So healthcare, schooling, right? He just kind of ignores those things. I mean, even police work, like anything that's publicly funded is more towards socialism. But he kind of just ignores that and says it's just part of government. The moment, if ever there's a point where he agrees, right now he says that healthcare is socialism. But if he ever at any point in his life agrees with universal healthcare, he would just call it a part of government. Because that's what he does with police force. At one point, you could have argued that policing is socialism. But you'd be fucking stupid to do that.
Okay?
Or he would call. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, evil policing is socialism. Like you could literally apply this argument to when policing became a socialized program.
Never. And they always try to claim that it's
you could buy your own protection, blah blah blah. You know what I'm saying?
Never been tried properly or fully worked. Okay? Never. And they always try to claim that it's never been tried properly or.
I don't remember Bernie Sanders doing this, but yes, a lot of socialists will say that it's never been tried properly. And then you've got the tankies who will defend fucking Stalin. So you got some truth there. The problem is that you could say the same about capitalists, like Ben Shapiro, who will literally say that places like Denmark, Canada are burdened by their social programs, and we need to go full anarcho-capitalist. No, he never says go anarcho-capitalist. He just like heavily fucking suggests the shit out of it. And Dave Rubin is pretty much just like gone. Well, even he fucking like sits on the fence because he's like, oh, I just like, playing with the idea of a place without regulation. I'm not like suggesting it, but I'm just, playing with that, thought process, like ideas, right? Okay, ideas. So I don't know, like you do a lot of suggesting to go into anarcho-capitalism, but you're not dumb enough to realize, like you don't actually think it's going to work. You just want to get as far away, like you would prefer anarcho-capitalism over any kind of social program anytime.
Where it has been tried properly now, they've
because you're rich mainly, that's why.
And this is only the last 10 years to the Scandinavian countries that they're all socialist. Here you go.
What happened?
Now they've pivoted, and this is only the last 10 years. Tried properly, or where it has been tried properly now, they've pivoted, and this is only the last 10 years to the Scandinavian countries that they're all socialist. Here you go.
What happened in Venezuela? They call that democratic socialism. But
it looks like he's masturbating on a subway.
What the fuck? It's the most irritating thing is when Steven Crowder just like he just tries to peg these people down one step every single time they try to talk. It's clear as day. Like first I thought it was some stupid jokes, but it's literally an attack just to like bring these people a peg down so that they're easier to hate for his audience, right? So he was laughing because there's probably some clip before this that got him laughing. He's like, looks like he's masturbating on a subway. Like, what the fuck does that mean?
The problem is, though, brothers, that any time there's been the attempts of ordinary people to engage in self-determination, they can get crushed by external nations. Look at U.S. policies toward Venezuela.
That's like a true fact, actually. Venezuela had a booming economy because of their oil reserves, and the United States decided to tariff the fuck out of them so they couldn't sell any. And their economy shit the bed, and then a bunch of other bad decisions happened.
It's been very, very ugly. Nicaragua in the same way. So we've never...
Yep, and the Middle East. The Middle East could be a prosperous nation, right? You can even apply this to fucking slavery, right? Africa, without slavery, could be just as prosperous as the United States, right? The Middle East, who the fuck knows where they are if we weren't bombing the fuck out of it all the time?
Never had a chance to really pull it off.
All these third world nations have had outside influence stunting their growth. Like that's it's like
so it's only been a movement so far.
Well, so long as we know what democratic socialism is, and if we know that in countries in Scandinavia like Denmark, Norway, Sweden, they are very democratic countries, obviously.
America to look more like Scandinavia.
That's right. That's right. And what's wrong with that?
What is wrong with that?
Well, there's a lot wrong with that.
Like what?
First off, the snus.
The snus?
It's a snooze.
Snooze?
Snooze,
it's
man.
The tobacco goes up your nose.
Oh, never mind.
That's snuff.
No, snuff goes in your lip. Snuff goes up your nose.
Snooze goes here, snuff goes here.
I don't know anything about tobacco outside of cigars, which, by the way, ironically come from a lot of these crap-hole countries.
Yeah. Because of borderline slave labor. Yeah.
Oh, they try Nicaragua.
That's the one silver lining.
They try to say Venezuela, a truly socialist and, by the way, oil-rich country, kind of starting on phase 3, only failed because of U.S. policies?
No, he didn't say only, but the United States did have a huge deal in them failing because they tariffed the fuck out of them.
The Scandinavian, we did a whole segment on this, so I'm just going to sort of brush on this. Scandinavian countries, actually, they built up their wealth under free market.
Like, I don't understand this complete ignorance to, like, how the United States works. Why did we go into well, I'm Canadian, but why did we go into Vietnam? Because fuck communism is pretty much the answer. We had no reason to go into there, but fuck communism is pretty much the answer. Why did we go into the Middle East? Pretty much oil. And to test your weapons. Why did we go into Venezuela? Like, why did you tear the fuck out of Venezuela? The oil, and they were going socialist. So, again, fuck communism.
Economies.
What does it say? Denmark tells Bernie Sanders it's had enough of its socialist slurs. Who the fuck knows where that's from? He could have literally just made that out of his asshole. While speaking at Harvard Kennedy School of Government, the center-right Danish Prime Minister Lars... Oh. I need to know where this article came from. Investors Business Daily. Is that where the article came from? Center-right. Yeah, center-right in terms of European politics. Center-right to the United States would be Bernie Sanders. Okay? Bernie Sanders... Actually, no. Maybe Bernie Sanders is more center-left. Maybe. But center-right is left-wing in the United States. Do not confuse those two. Center-right, for any European country in Canada, basically any system that has a parliamentary system, so all of the European countries plus Canada, center-right is far left in the United States, like pretty far left in the United States, okay? That has to be clear. Center-right doesn't mean fuck all to the United States. Lars Loka Rasmussen said that he was aware that some people in the U.S. associate the Nordic model with some sort of socialism. Therefore, he said, I would like to make one thing clear. Denmark is far from a socialist planned economy. Denmark is a market economy. Yeah. It is far from a socialist planned economy. I'm not sure that, like, where's the quote that Bernie Sanders says that some people in the U.S. associate the Nordic model with some sort of socialism? Well, it's a mixed market economy. So it's somewhat socialist because of the regulations. And if you got worker-grown co-ops, that's socialism. But yeah, like a market economy could still exist with parts of socialism, like I'm saying. If every business in the United States was a worker-owned co-op, the economy would be running off of like socialism, but the economy itself wouldn't be socialistic because the government doesn't own the means of production. Well, the workers would own most of the means of production, but then like they partake in a market system. That makes sense to you? Yeah, okay.
And right now, they're actually moving much more toward free market capitalism, despite their incredibly small, homogenous populations, by the way.
By the way, whenever he says homogenous, it just means white people, by the way. Just so you know. What he means by homogenous is that it's white people. But, like, this is almost a dog whistle at this point. I think it might actually literally be a dog whistle at this point. If you ever hear Ben Shapiro, Steven Crowder, or any of these right-wingers say homogenous, they mean that it's white people. And that's why they're like, why does he have to mention that the country is homogenous? It's because he's trying to correlate good country with white people. You don't have to mention that the country's homogenous.
Free market capitalism, despite their incredibly small, homogenous populations, by the way. And keep in mind, their top corporate tax rates actually lower than the United States were under Obama. We're actually going their direction now, finally, for the first time. And something else that...
Yeah, it's because it's Denmark. If you have no business people in your country, you want to have lower corporate tax rates to bring them into your country. This is like economics 101. Why does Puerto Rico have like 0 corporate tax rate? So that businesses go there and build shit so that they can get like because Puerto Rico is pretty much a tourist country, or tourist state at this point. So it's just I need to go 100% tourism. So you need to have a low corporate tax rate so that the corporations will come there and build their tourist areas, and then they'll make most of the revenue off of tourists, not the businesses.
That is remarkable to me. Did you know that when...
Well, and then, yeah, but anyways. Oh, fuck.
Scandinavian people move to the United States, they have higher standards of living on average.
Fuck, what was... This, like, shit. This graph got like debunked because basically the reason that they I think what it is that when Danish people move from Denmark to here, they have a lump sum of cash. So of course they're going to be better here because their country, like, this money isn't just given. Like, it's not like a Danish American moves here and just has this money. They have better standard of living in the United States because they make more money and they have a better quality of life in Denmark.
Average than those in the Scandinavian countries. In other words, Danes in the United States have it better than Danes in Denmark.
That could, So, okay, I think that's how it went. That's how, like, that could be for a million reasons. So, they make good money in Denmark, but they can't make a ton, so they come to the United States and make businesses because they have a fuck ton of money because of their country having, like, a relatively low wealth inequality gap. Okay? So then they come to the States and just make more money because the States is, like, less regulated and whatnot. Get it? Okay. I think that's pretty much the point. Denmark's a much smaller country. Like, yeah. Like, the problem isn't that you can make money in the States. That's the good part of the United States. The problem is that when you're poor, you seem to stay poor. And Danish people aren't poor, so that's why they might be able to... That's part of the reason why they do better in the United States than Danish people in Denmark.
Swedes in the United States have it better than Swedes in Sweden.
Without the high suicide rate.
Is there a super high suicide rate? I knew it was Japan.
Suicide. Well, I know Japan, but I thought
Norway.
Norway, yes.
That's just because of the weather, and they all have to watch Let the Right One In.
Yeah, and by the way, how many times do they have to come on camera and say, Bernie, please stop pointing to us as socialists?
Yeah.
We're not.
Yeah, like the one time that happened 2 years ago.
Socialist.
They have a lot of... They have a social safety net, which, by the way, is why cars, for example, most... I think in Denmark, most people...
They have a massive social safety net. Way bigger than the United States.
Can't afford used cars. You can go to Lotto's.
Yeah. Because used cars are bad for the environment. I thought someone was going to come Spreckensy to me. All right, so why is it extremely expensive to buy used cars in Denmark? Well, it's because older cars burn more gas. So instead, Denmark, if you want to own a car in Denmark, you can. It's just really fucking expensive. So instead, they have, like, you could ride a bike to and fro where you need to go. They have a nice fucking transportation system with buses and whatnot. They have the social programs in place so that you don't have to buy a car. That's why they're expensive as fuck. That's why in Canada, the debate right now is that gas, like, we have a carbon tax. A carbon tax went into place right now. So our gas went from like $1 a gallon or liter. Yeah, $1 a liter to $1.16 essentially because of the carbon tax. People have a big problem with it because it's like, oh, well, now you're just making me pay more for stuff I have to do. It's like, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it's kind of annoying that you go to work every day and you have to drive there. But fossil fuels are on the decline. We got to get the fuck rid of fossil fuels. One way of doing that is making the fossil... Like, how do you stop people from smoking cigarettes? You make cigarettes fucking bloody expensive. That's why a pack of cigarettes in Canada is like $10 fucking dollars. No, it's like $20 now. It's $20 for a fucking pack of cigarettes. So if you want to kill yourself, you can. It just costs a lot of money. So if you want to drive a car, it's going to cost you more money to buy gas. Use less gas. Find a more efficient way to get to work. The problem right now is that we don't really, because Canada's fucking massive, we don't really have a great transportation system, but we're working to make it better. And if the carbon taxes, if the money collected from the carbon tax goes towards a very robust transportation system, then you can stop using your fucking car. And then you're not paying the carbon tax. Holy fuck.
We wrote an article about this not long ago because the taxes are unbelievable.
Yeah.
There's a huge burden on the middle class. That being said, they built up their wealth under free market economies. So you can't claim that a country, if the United States, for example, tomorrow, I think in Denmark, most people can't afford used cars. Social safety net, which by the way is why cars, for example, I think in Denmark, most people can't afford used cars. You can go to loudwithcredit.com. We wrote an article about this.
I've been here this whole fucking time. I want to kill myself. How much did I miss? I don't know. Okay, basically, we're going to go over this point one more time. Oh, that's what I did. Okay, so I haven't been muted. When I pressed spacebar, I muted myself. That's all I did. Okay. So what did I just miss over? Basically this point.
Cars, for example, I think in Denmark, most people can't afford used cars. You can go to
Okay, so right now he's trying to push that Denmark, like the social safety net in Denmark is bad. Like they have a social safety net, which makes it more expensive for people to buy used cars. To his audience, to most Americans, buying a used car, not being able to afford a used car is like awful, right? Like, holy fuck, you can't buy a used car? That's really bad. Like, you must hate your life. You can't buy a used car? Oh my god. Okay, but why are used cars so expensive in Denmark? Well, used cars, older cars, burn more gas and are less fuel efficient than brand new cars. So there might be an incentive to buying electric cars in Denmark. The other incentive is that they want you off the fucking roads, and they have a robust or very good transportation system, public transportation system. But he's never going to mention that. He's just going to say that it's expensive to buy used cars in Denmark, therefore their social safety net is fucking a burden on them. But it's not.
We wrote an article about this not long ago because the taxes are unbelievable.
Yeah.
There's a huge burden on the middle class. That being said, they built up their wealth under free market.
Okay, there's really not a huge burden on the middle class. Can you like cite that? If your idea of a burden on the middle class is not being able to buy a used car, okay. Because they don't need it in Denmark because they have a robust public transportation system. Same reason why a lot of people in cities, when you live in a big city, you usually don't need a car because you could just get a taxi or an Uber or take the subway. Right? And like, why? Well, because in most major cities, there's a robust transportation system.
Economies. So you can't claim that a country,
which is publicly owned.
If the United States, for example, the United States tomorrow became a socialist country. Yeah. Would you say that we became the world's greatest superpower under socialism?
No, no one would ever say that. And if anyone says that, they're fucking crazy.
No.
Of course not. No. Obviously, I would say that the
okay, well, he's not going to mention who has said that.
Facts are on our side, okay? Because I just listed over a dozen.
Oh, except for none of them are true.
But I know that both sides argue they're on the side of truth. Okay, let's put that aside for a second. One thing that can't be denied is that even in theory, capitalist free enterprisers, the conservative worldview can only function if an individual feels empowered. And I know that Bernie bros are going to say that that's a lie because of the system, man. All right, I know. The fact is that the conservative message is predicated on the idea that individuals feel optimistic about their opportunities in future.
No. What you're advocating for is, like, your system would work if all people could equally make a choice, right? But that's just simply not true. Like, capitalism, anarcho-capitalist would work if all people were nice to each other and all people agreed upon, like, the system and price. Like, if everything was fair, anarcho-capitalism would work, right? Because if anarcho-capitalism would work if everyone wasn't trying to kill each other, because like then you would no need for a police force, or like if protection wasn't needed, and a million other things. So like capitalism works when everybody, like the business owners, even though a million studies have been done that most business owners have sociopathic tendencies, which means they don't give a fuck about anybody. Like more and more less regulated capitalism, more free market capitalism would work if there were less, like if people cared about each other more. The problem is that people don't give a fuck about each other. So the more you deregulate your economy, the more people get stepped on because the people at the top have big fucking boots.
Future. Yeah. Socialists can only remain in power by convincing the entire population of hopelessness. Conservatives,
that makes no sense,
have to campaign on, hey, anyone can make it in America. You're good.
Ugh. No, usually this is how conservatives campaign. Hey man, don't you want the free choice to do whatever you want, whenever you... Don't you want that choice? Don't you... Like, fuck unions, guys. They're infringing on your choice. Yeah, but it turns out a lot of people are fucking stupid, okay? So when you got stupid people, when the majority